Hi, welcome to Shelf Starters. I'm Rosie,
And I'm Kate. Hi.
and today we're back with the Norton Anthology after a little break, and we are doing Roger Ascham, who wrote The Schoolmaster and some other things, but they're not in the Norton. He wrote, The Toxophilus, and Report on Germany as well. So Toxophilus was a thing about the art of shooting.
Yes.
And shooting from a bow and arrow. And I have this edition, so it's really hard to find like the actual full text of Ascham. So this is one of those reprint ones, but it has all three in one. So I did read the art of shooting thing and the state of Germany.
And what did you learn, Rosie? What did you learn about the art of shooting?
It was actually pretty interesting. Like, he's very passionate about it, for sure. He's written a whole like treatise basically on shooting and like why it's such a good physical sport, why it's good for young men to use their bodies as well as their minds, and because he's coming at things from the view of a schoolmaster.
Yes, he's a bit like a bit of a Spartan vibe going on.
Yeah. So he's like, not only is it a good skill to have, but also it's really good for like balancing. It was very much that whole like balanced learning kind of thing.
Happy mind, healthy body, happy mind. That he's that sort of
and the precision that he was talking about with shooting as well, that like you need to be like, it's also kind of teaching that like center yourself.
Yes.
It's kind of like, I don't know, like martial arts in my mind now.
Yeah.
Similar kind of like discipline.
And why Germany? What was his thing about Germany?
Oh, so I think he might have been, is it right that he was a
he was a humanist? So, and I'm just interested also in that notion that humanism was taught early on in Wittenberg, wasn't it, in Germany? Because it's referenced in Hamlet. So, because that's where Hamlet went, wasn't it? And so I just wondered if there was a connection between his humanism and his...
Maybe that's why he... But yeah, it's basically just like a little report on what was going on politically in Germany. So I can't say I really retained too much. Pretty dry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas
but the other two are way more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the Schoolmaster itself, the snippet that I've read, because I've only read the snippet, that's not right. It's quite an easy read, isn't it?
Yes, I will say the snippet that we have is pretty much repeated many times in the main thing. So you pretty much got the main idea of it. So he's talking about how best to teach Latin. It's all focused on Latin teaching.
Latin as the centre of learning Latin, but a really interesting methodology that he suggests, which is that you translate from the Latin into English, and then once you've done that, you need to then translate it back again into the Latin. That's the way to learn best. And he had some interesting ideas about grammar. Kind of like a cool dude that really kind of prefaced what happened when I was at school. So I went to school in the 70s when it was new and cool not to teach kids grammar.
Like rote learning and stuff.
Yeah, none of that. All of that was eradicated. And our system was then all about learning big picture and learning to use grammar by reading. And that's what Ascham was on about as well, which must have been pretty amazing back in the day.
I think it was, yeah. And but you say it's so interesting. Like, we know of Ascham because we know of the school Ascham in Sydney.
Yeah,
and you can really see where it's
very prestigious school in Sydney. Called Ascham. It's a school for girls, and the way that school operates is it's called the Dalton system, where students are given the work to do and they have one-on-one tutorials with their teachers, but they're given the work to do across a week. So it's very
self-driven learning.
All self-driven learning. Yeah, it's really interesting. And
which is like what he's going for in this. So it basically starts there. The preface to this is like it's talking about a dinner party, I think, where the topic of education comes up, and some guy that he's talking to says, I don't know what to do with my son. I want to make sure I give him the best tutor, but like I don't want him to be bored out of his mind and hate learning and all this stuff. And so then that comes into this whole spiel of like the best way to teach a child. Yes. And it's all about encouraging them to enjoy the topic that they're working on.
Yeah, absolutely.
but they want to go further with it. So like
a love of learning rather than a fear of physical pain. That's the other thing. He was against corporal.
I highlighted that too.
I love that. You know, he was, because then, I mean, we're talking 1500s. It would have been so crazy modern to be talking like that. You know, no pain, no forcing, you know, enjoying learning. This would have been really very interesting to promote. I mean, so
no corporal punishment for the child, that's a huge one.
Very huge. I mean, we only just got rid of that in Australia in schools in New South Wales, you know, 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, they did. Yes, when in the 70s, corporal punishment was absolutely part of school. Children were caned for, you know, very minor infringements, it has to be said. But the cane was literally hitting them with a cane, you know, and that was only outlawed not that long ago. So here's a man talking about it in the 1500s. So I loved reading it. I found it really interesting, really, really interesting. And he also, his focus on the classics. So alluding to Homer and focusing on the classics. I like that too.
Well, because that's part of using it, like that big picture of what Latin is actually for, is like, you know, going back to how it was used, going back to those classic original texts, because that's what you're learning it for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
not what he calls the tedious part of grammar.
Right. Yeah, he understands why kids like don't enjoy it.
If you're a kid, you're not going to love that. Yeah.
So that's kind of good. What I think is really interesting is that I think he was quite like well known in the courts and stuff, because at some point he has this whole,
didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he also has a meeting, which I think we actually get to later on in the Norton, but it's in the Schoolmaster. So we do another extract from the Schoolmaster later, where he meets with Lady Jane Grey.
Yes, because so he was very involved with obviously the entire royal family. Yeah, all of them. Yeah, but Lady Jane Grey. Yes, I read about that.
Goes on and on about how great she is.
Yes.
So he just has this one afternoon where he like meets her and chats to her, and the way that she is going about her studies, he just really admires. And so he goes like, there's a little spiel on how great she is, and how calm and like demure, but like really focused.
A good studier. Yeah.
Good studier. So the one part that I didn't love about him was this part about Italy.
Yes, explain that to me, Rosie, because I don't know what you mean here. So I'm interested.
He didn't like the concept of people going to Italy to learn, doing cultural travel. He was against the concept of cultural travel. He thinks that any learning that you need to do about anywhere, anything, can be done from your own room.
Yeah.
And that there is no point going into the country to actually experience it yourself, because they all I think it was all to do with how much progress was happening in Italy at the time, and how it was a little bit forward thinking, which was like scandalous back in England. So it was all like the way that people behave was just totally inappropriate. And if young men go to Italy, they're just going to be corrupted by the Italians.
Yeah, right. That's right.
And then bring that back to
now
England.
I know that. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a bit like, well, that's okay. It's not.
That's maybe not saying that they don't. That's right. Many of our travellers into Italy do not eschew the way that Serche is caught, but go and ride and run and fly thither. They make great haste, some to make great suit to serve it. Yay! I could point out some with my finger that had never gone out of England, but only to serve Serche. Is that how you say that? In Italy, vanity and vice and any license to ill living in England was counted stale and rude unto them. So he's got very strong views.
Yeah. He that by living and travelling in Italy bringeth home into England out of Italy the religion, the learning, the policy, the experience, the manners of Italy, which he obviously hated all of those things.
He didn't like the manners of Italy at all.
Yeah, he didn't love the manners of Italy.
No.
So he talked to him about filthy living.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a little bit judgmental, but otherwise, he had some good ideas, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe it's his idea about teaching young people, that was the positive. He seemed to really have a really good grasp of what it would be like to be the young person and want to make sure that it was a good experience. So that bit he was good on. But
just when it went to other things, not so much.
Yeah.
It's funny because he obviously did travel himself. Like he did go to Germany for this other bit.
Well, he did, but he was just such a nationalist, wasn't he? That is interesting. That maybe his job made him hate the idea of
maybe
travel. Who knows?
And at the end, he also references some other texts that we have read.
Yes,
which was fun.
Yes,
he references
yeah,
and Tristram.
Yep,
which is part of more Datul, but yeah, we have the other one as well. And yeah, I thought it was good little text. It gives you some background into how like people were educated at the time, in particular royalty and like nobility.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I liked it much more than the other two things that he wrote. But yeah, he clearly had a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, he did. And it was very, very interesting, I thought.
The schoolhouse should be counted a sanctuary against fear and very well learned, a common pardon for ill doing, if the fault of itself be not over heinous.
I wonder what qualifies as heinous. I'd like to know that. How bad do you have to do?
I do despise the learning that is gotten or the experience that is gathered in strange countries.
Yeah.
I wonder if Ascham the school talks about this much.
I don't know. I actually did try. I went on their website and had a look at because I just got all interested and I had a look at their history. They certainly remain cutting edge in terms of education, and they have been at the forefront of women, education for women, and kind of believing that women could do anything more or less. So, they championed women being Rhodes Scholars, going to the Olympics. They brought in sports that, hadn't been brought in before. So all the things really, that the philosophies that he had.
So yeah, this guy is kind of in a way like quite, he focuses, he does think that women should be educated.
Yeah, totally. And so I'm sure it was a deliberate choice that the school would be called.
And maybe part of like wanting people to stay home as well. I mean, that does make it more accessible to women.
Yep.
Of the time.
Yep. Yes, it made me think, gosh, we should have sent you there, Rosie. A fail on our part that we hadn't done our research into that school.
Yeah, it did sound like a pretty good school.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, and I have worked with students from Ascham, and I do love the system that they use because they do really think, and they do own what they're learning. You can noticeably see it compared to the other system. So yeah. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it? We're in 2022, and he was in what 1500 and what was it?
No. 1515 to 1568 was when he lived.
Pretty interesting.
So the Schoolmaster was published after his death, actually.
Oh, was it? I didn't see.
Yeah.
Okay. But what a great thought that you can have an influence like that.
Yeah. Through education.
And through teaching and writing, you could have an influence that great. I mean, it's really.
And I think in not too long, we are going to actually see a whole heap of writings by women.
Yes.
In the letters and speeches and things, especially Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So we'll see the outcomes of his teaching.
Yep. That will be really good. Is that's
cool?
Soon that we get to that, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah, because I think the next one is the courtier.
And then we've got Women in Power, right?
Yeah. And I think we're going to do 2 episodes on that because
that'll be so good.
I think we're going to want to talk about it quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, we are. Yes. So, and it's got, because we've got Lady Jane Grey in there, which will be fab on her letter.
Cool.
Yeah. Everybody's in there.
Next week we will do Sir Thomas Hoby's translation of Castiglione's The Courtier.
Yes. And then after that, get into the Women in Power.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Cool. Sounds fun. Well, it is fun. It's great.
So, let us know what you thought in the comments below. if you have ever heard of Ascham, like we
knows
had
Roger Ascham. Yeah, who knows about Roger?
Yeah, I wonder if it is just kind of like, you know, because we at least are familiar with it in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we would have known otherwise.
Yeah, like absolutely. Because of the school, I always think, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I know who he is because of the school.
Yeah,
but I didn't.
other people.
But I thought, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if other people have heard and read. That'd be good.
Yeah,
really good. And we've got exciting things coming up here, Rosie. We've got the Sydney Writers Festival starts next week.
Oh yeah, you'll have to tell us if you go to anything.
Yes, so that'll be good. So yeah, I think I've said it about 1,000 times. I love this time of year. It's, you know, when everybody's celebrating reading, it's good. And it's lovely. We have lovely weather at this time generally, not at the moment, but usually, you know, that lovely sunny, you know, and lots of talks and, you know, new ideas and books all around the harbour. And it's a really lovely time to be in Sydney. So all about literature. So very fun. So yeah, I'll tell you all about it next week.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again next time.
Yeah. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.